Hotep Royals City Anpu 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 Zalabantu 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 Nomkhubulwane 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 Thokozani Ndlondlo Hotep Makhehla Kings and Queens phela njengoba sizobungaza usuku lomama thokoza Ndlovukazi Ndlovukazi thokoza gogo
Thokoza Mkhulu.
How are you gogo?
Fine, thanks Mkhulu. How are you?
Man, it's been a long time.
It has indeed Mkhulu.
Yes, no, but I'm very happy, we are connecting.
Absolutely.
Especially today, when we celebrate the bringer of life in Zalabantu, the universal womb. This is where I would like us, to start, where you just share, light to all the viewers today as to what do we mean when we talk about the universal womb.
The universal womb. It is a pity that we have to have a day called Mother's Day, when Mother's Day is what we experience every day, and especially in nature. I think if you want to experience motherhood, you just have to go into nature and you see it everywhere. Whether you go into, and I like to talk about the African feminine ecosystem. And if we look at an ecosystem, it's a system of different parts that come together in order to feed a whole. So one part feeds the other. But what is it that binds this ecosystem together? It is the mother. It is the mother. It is the mother in any aspect of that ecosystem. And I'm talking about the mother. I'm talking about, if you go into the mother of the earth, we're talking about the caves. If you go into the caves, you'll experience the womb of the mother. If you go to the ocean, which is 70% of our planet's body, that will give you the experience of the mother. And the ocean is the equivalent of the amniotic fluid in the womb. It is the one that carries everything. Then if you go into nature, you might want to look at the lioness. If you want to understand how this womb operates, look at the lioness. Look at how she guards her pride. Look at the matriarchal elephant system. Look at the matriarchal whale system. Who have the males are midwives. For the whales that bring the young into being. So I think this is the universal womb, and part of that womb, if we want to understand it, we would have to look at archetypes. I think here in the South, I heard you called on Nomkhubulwane. That is the principal type of the universal womb. If we go to Nigeria, we might call upon Yemanja. She governs the oceans. She's a principal archetype of the universal womb. But if we want to understand a civilization that has really managed to put this together, it is in Kemet, where they have Aset as that archetype. And Aset, she's the one who governs the womb. She's the one who governs motherhood. But she's the one who makes sure that in that she brings about Ma'at into civilization. And the best way, I think, to illustrate how this mothering womb, or this universal womb, operates through the archetype of Aset is just to tell the story, the story of Aset. So it is said that in Kemet there was a great king and a great a queen. Asar was the king, Aset was the queen, and they ruled Kemet. They ruled the empire with absolute ma'at according to the principles of Ubuntu. But then, unfortunately, Asar's brother Set was jealous, and he wanted to overthrow him because he could not understand, why does he not have access to the throne? Why does he not have access to power? And so he then usurped the throne, killed his brother, and buried him, they say, in the Nile, in a box in the Nile. Now, Aset, who's the universal womb, who's the mother, is the principle of devotion, according to Kemetic spirituality. And in her deep devotion, she managed to conjure up magic. And that magic was able to bring Osir back to life, put him back on the throne. Set was not to be outdone. So he once again went, killed his brother, but this time he was cleverer. He's like, I'll cut him up into 14 pieces, throw them to the ends of the ocean. And then there, you know, there will no way that Osir will ever come back. He took over and chaos descended. The chaos that we see in the world today is Set, you know, the chaos Set.
Yes.
And then, of course, who's this? Aset was not to be outdone. So she took, as I spoke about the African feminine ecosystem, she took her sister, Nebhet, you know, who's an aspect of Heteru, the principle of imagination, the principle of vision. And together, they scoured the ends of the earth to find the pieces of Osir. They found 13 pieces, but there was one piece they couldn't find.
Yes.
Which had been eaten by a fish.
By the fish,
By the fish. But we know that Aset, because of her deep devotion, she's magic. She can conjure up anything. So she conjured a phallus. She conjured a phallus. She remembered Osir, and she managed to conceive Haru. Conceive Haru. And of course, then she gave Haru to her sister to carry as a surrogate mother.
Oh, sorry, Coco. You know, that is the source of the virgin birth story.
Indeed.
It's
the Immaculate Conception that Christianity has taken and gone with, but it was right in our cosmology, you know. And then there we have, as you said, the Immaculate Conception. And then Heteru or Nebhet, she becomes that principle of the universal womb. She carries Haru. She carries the one who's going to be the leader of the future. She carries the one who's going to be the savior. She carries the one who's going to be the hero, you know, and she carries him to term until he's birthed. And then, of course, the mother then nurtures him. She nurtures him together with her sister. They nurture him until such time that he grows up to be able to fight his uncle Set, everything has descended into chaos. And he fights him. At first, Haru he's got youthful folly. He's arrogant, you know, and unfortunately his uncle, you know, gets the better of him, renders him blind, you know, and then
removes the eye.
Removes the eye, you know, and he becomes blind.
Oh, sorry, right there, Coco. Please, can you just explain more about the eye? You know, in relation to our system.
Okay, so I think everybody will have seen the Uchat, you know, the eye of Haru that usually Haru. And this Uchat represents that eye that was taken from Haru, you know, and this is the principle of circumspection, the ability to see beyond one dimension, but the ability to see in all dimensions. The ability to see that which is similar, the ability to see that which is different, the ability to see from a distance, the ability to see in detail. This is the principle of circumspection, which Haru only gets once Tehuti, you know, the principle of wisdom, gives him back his eye, and then he gains insight. You know? And this is what that Uchat is. And when we are in our system, when we talk about Uchat Ekut coming forth, you know, from day into night, you know, it is because we've got this eye of Haru. You know, we are able to see beyond. And it is
Isolomoya, the spiritual eye, Coco.
Eye, and which in other systems they'll call the third eye. You know,
the third eye, Chagos.
You know, and which is governed by the the pineal gland. This is what our system is very scientific. You know, it uses stories, but to underlie very deep scientific and spiritual principles.
That is so true.
And with his new eye, Haru is able.
Sorry to interrupt, Coco. I want us now to relate this to the earthly elements. What do you think? You know, Asar and Aset represents vis-a-vis the elements that are prevalent on earth.
So Aset, the mother, she governs water, and not just any water. She specifically governs salt water, which is the waters of the oceans, which are the most prevalent ocean in our on the planet. So she is the principle who life, and as I said before, that water is like the amniotic fluid in the womb. It is the water that keeps the fetus alive. That's everything happens. It is this ocean, this ocean water, and that is why you see that in most of our African spiritualities, this the feminine, the water spirits, especially the spirits of the oceans, are governed by the mother spirit, the mother spirit. The use of shells and our cowrie shells and everything, which are there to help you to activate that water element, that water spirit. You know.
Oh, sorry, Coco, just there, Coco, you're reminding me now of Ukulukulwan, the waters of noon, the origins of life itself. Yes, Coco. Yes.
And exactly. And that is when we go right back, you know, in Kemetic spirituality. The origin, before life happens, it is waters.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, Togos.
It is the waters of noon. That is where the void is. That is where everything comes from. That is where life that is where time is formed. You know, through the attributes of water is where time is. You know, and then manifestation comes into being and creation comes to be. And that is before the masculine comes into play. You know, it is the feminine able to hold the masculine so that it together it can continue to create. And of course, in our system, you know, usually in the Western system, they talk about Mother Earth. But in our system, actually, Earth is Grandfather Geb. You know, he's Geb. You know, he's gone right through from the female, the feminine of the nothingness of noon, the primordial waters of noon, finally births Geb, which is Grandfather Geb, which is actually a masculine attribute in the Kemetic system, as opposed to the Western system, which tells us that it is feminine. Because in Geb is held by Nut, you know, is held by the feminine, is held by those primordial waters.
Oh yes, Coco.
Okay.
We lost you for a while there. Yes, Coco. Yes, continue, Coco.
So if I go back to that story of Haru finally gets his eye. You know, he manages to conquer Set and bring back Ubuntu, bring back Ma'at. None of that would have happened without the mother. You know, she was not at the forefront. She was not necessarily the one on the front line of battle, but it was through her magic and through her visioning, you know, from her womb, that deep knowledge that resides in the womb. And we know that the womb is the only organ in the body that can expand to more than 10 times its size. You know, to understand what a woman is, what the feminine is, that ability to expand, you know, and this is all embedded in our African spirituality and cosmology, in our Kemetic cosmology. So you know, the whole balance of Ma'at or Ubuntu is restored because of the actions of the feminine. And I think we see this not just in the metaphor that is presented to us, but we see it in many great African women across the continent who have come through time, whether we're talking about Queen Tia, whether we're talking about Makeda, whether we're talking about Nzinga, you know, whether we're talking about Shantiba, whether we're talking about all these greats, you know, who were not just sitting at home making babies and cooking, which is unfortunately what our patriarchal system has wanted to think that's the role of women. But they were on the front line. They were warriors, you know, because those waters of Nut carry the warrior, you know, attributes inside them. You know, our African civilizations were matriarchal, you know, because they were born of And matriarchal does not mean the opposite of patriarchy. It doesn't mean women, you know. Matriarchy is just a completely different system. And as I said, if you want to go to nature, look at the lioness, you'll understand matriarchy. But better still, look at the elephant, look at those in Glovu, look at how they manage, you know, their herds, how they manage, how they come together, you know. And an elephant can take a lion down any day, you know. Of that that principle of the universal womb of the mother.
Yes, Coco. Yes, Coco. Then you know, the other thing that we needed clarity on. Remember that you know, science confirms today that all humanity are from Africa. They all share a DNA strand of an African woman. They call them mitochondria. Can you just give us some, you know, information about that?
I'll even go a bit further than that, Mkhulu. And you know, because a lot of the West has tried a lot to, especially when we're talking about Kemet, because it is such a great, you know, civilization. The West has tried very hard to de-Africanize Kemet, you know. But when we start going into genetics, you know, when we really start going deep into genetics, we'll find that those great ones of that civilization, you know, were not only African, but were of Bantu, many of them, you know, of Bantu. You know, when we go really into the genetics and, you know, the DNA of it, you know. And once again, if we come, you know, right here in South Africa, we have the cradle of humankind here, you know, where, you know, they've really been able to trace back our original human forms, or our ancestors, you know, right here into the womb of Africa. We are not hearing that in even great places like South America or the Australians. We're not hearing it in China. We're hearing that here, Africa, it's the womb. You know, and this is, and in this womb, that's where we find great things like our oldest solar calendars, like in Yelanga, our oldest. The Lebombo bone, you know, found right here, not far, you know, our oldest, the oldest mountains are here, you know, Makonjo Mountains, right here, not far from where we are, you know. So this must tell us that all of these things must give us clues that surely this is the heart, this is the universal womb, this place that we call Africa.
Chogoza, Kesha Goko, you know, because I've always said that civilization started here on the southern part of the continent, and the same people, you know, migrated to the north to then go and, you know, refine, you know, those parts of civilization that they started here.
Absolutely, Mkhulu, absolutely. And I think especially if you walk, you go up the line of first time, the Zep Tepi, you know, the Al Meridian. And I think we can then trace, like if we go, like for instance, here in South Africa, we have our Inzala Yolanga, the oldest solar calendar in the world. And only much later do we find a solar calendar in Kemet, you know.
Togoza.
So that must give us a clue that it didn't start in Kemet. You know, it didn't start in Kemet. In Kemet, that's where they refined that which came from the south. Moving up that Zep Tepi, moving up the Nile Meridian, you know, that line of first time, the golden line, you know. And then from there, then they went beyond. They went to China, they went to India, they went to the Americas and further refined there. But the heart, you know, comes right back down here.
Chogoza Koko. Now, you know, what does the spirit say about the emergence of the first people? Because there's always a confusion, because there could never be a man without a woman, you know. But, you know, Coco, what are they saying about that? Who was, you know, birthed first by Nun, you know, or not Nun by Aset, you know, as the first mother on earth?
So it depends on which cosmology, you know, we look at. If we look at the tree of life, the Kemetic, the Osirian tree of life, because, you know, in Kemet, there were so many schools with so many cosmologies. I mean, Kemet was just, you know, it's such an incredible a civilization. So
yes,
with the Kemetic, they will go from Nun, which is, you can say it's as it doesn't have a gender, it's genderless, but they do
androgen beings,
androgynous, but they do tend
yes,
to emphasize the more feminine aspect when they start speaking of the being into creation, and when we go into what that being is that created, it births, and therefore if it births, it must be from the universal womb. When we go to our First Nations people here, in Southern Africa, our Bushmen, or the Khoisan, our
Batwa, yes,
they'll tell you about the egg. They'll tell you about the egg, and that egg is not. You don't have an egg. Sorry to our brothers and Mkhulus. That egg is found, within the feminine. So I think if we start looking at how our ancient civilizations, start showing us how creation came into being, we realize that so much of it is that even though it is an androgynous being, this eternal being, its feminine aspect is the one that births. And with the Osirian tree of life, it births Osir. It comes from the universal, waters of Nun. It then births into Osir. And from there, all of manifestation happens. Yeah.
No, certainly, Coco, because the principles we are talking about, people shouldn't be confused. These are not physical manifestations, but what we call eternal spirits, like amadlozi. Because another thing where there's confusion, especially in the Nguni language, between idlozi and tongo. Itongo are those, people or spirits that once experienced life on earth. Now they've moved on, they've passed on. Sithi amatongo because balele, but they will awaken one day. Then when we talk about amadlozi, we're talking about eternal, principles that sustains and maintains life. Like the 9 principles, which then comes back to even links with the subject of, gestation of umntwana in the womb. The amount of time, for a woman that carries in the womb, it's 9 months, which then correlates with the 9 principles that are responsible for maintaining life.
Absolutely. And when we look at the Kemetic tree of life, or the Assyrian tree of life, and we look at the different spheres, the different deities, or the different archetypal energies, or Set, the mother sits at sphere 9, so once again, that's tells us a lot of clues, when you start looking at numbers, you start getting a lot of clues, and our spirituality is highly scientific, and I think people tend to think it's very esoteric, and it's kind of some mumbo jumbo. It's highly scientific, so you
can prove.
Yeah, you can prove with the tree of life. There's so much that you can prove, including, as they say, that gestation within the human has to take 9 months, in order for all the faculties. And that is for each of those spheres of the tree of life to be fully manifested within that being. That it come out into grandfather Geb, when it then meets the masculine, it has to go those 9 months of the feminine, going through the waters of
Yes. No, injalo Coco, I truly appreciate, which is why, it's also, the feminine energy is also linked, with that star called Sirius, Usobdet. Remember Sobdet, as we learn from Kemetic philosophy and, spirituality, African spirituality and African philosophy, that our sun in our solar system is energized by, the stars in the, formation of the Sirius star. That is where our sun receives, its energy. So as per the idiom, the African idiom that says, as above, so is below. So whatever happens in the spiritual world is replicated physically.
Absolutely. And in our Kemetic spirituality, Sirius is Aset. You know, she
Yes.
is the divine, you know, and the sun is her root. The sun is her
yes.
root. It's her son, S-O-N. The S-U-N is her S-O-N, you know.
Yes.
And so that is why she will animate and she will feed, you know, this sun, which then is the source, you know, for this particular planet, you know, that we are on. And then Sirius works in conjunction with Orion, you know, with Orion, the warrior.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and you know, who we see in the night skies very often. And Sirius is a very bright star. You know, people, I think our brothers and sisters here should make time to get to know the night stars, because there's, as you said, Mkhulu, so above, so below. If we see what's happening in the night sky, we'll get to understand what's happening in society, or how we as society should be, you know, should be governing. And we see Sirius is very bright, even though Orion as a constellation is very big. Sirius as a single star is incredibly bright, and that once again should be a clue that tells us about the feminine principle.
That, you know, I'm so happy and glad we are able to explain this much further, because what then you know, creates you know, disharmony and disorder on earth. It's the influence, the Western influence, which then downplayed, you know, the importance of the feminine energy. That is, you know, done, you know, if you look at the Western Trinity, it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. There's no mother there, you know. So the role of that feminine energy is, you know, downplayed, which is why there's so much confusion. Even as some of, you know, African cultural system ended up adopting that patriarchal system, which was introduced, you know, by, you know, Westerners here on the continent. That is why we're in this mess we're in.
Absolutely, Mkhulu, absolutely. And you know, earlier we spoke about how Aset is the principle of water, but specifically ocean water. When we're looking at fresh water like the rivers and rain and our lakes, we're talking at the other feminine principle, which is the principle of heteru or nebhet, or you know, the Oshun, according to the, you know, to Yoruba, you know, the young feminine, you know, the young feminine, essential one. But she's the one who carries Haru, remember, in, you know, before, you know, she's the
she nurses Haru, yes.
You know, now she, as I said, governs the rivers. And let's look at the state of the rivers in just around us here in South Africa. And they're so defiled. And when we look at how the rivers have been defiled, how they've been dammed, how waste is thrown into them, we start to see how the feminine is treated, especially the young feminine. So we start to see gender-based violence by seeing how the rivers are treated, because the rivers are carrying that feminine spirit, you know, and those rivers are the ones which are able to reflect the sun. So in as much as Sirius is the one who animates the sun, the one who reflects her is the bodies of water. That's who reflects the sun.
Yes, the moon, yes.
Exactly. And but because we have succumbed to this patriarchal system that that does not take nurturing and does not take ecosystem, you know, into account, that chooses to, I mean, does it make any sense to completely cut out the feminine who births from a trinity? I mean, just
unbelievable.
It's any rational thinking being, you know, it's incredible that would happen. And as a result, we see what we're seeing now. And unfortunately, with this coronavirus, gender-based violence has just shot up, you know, because unfortunately, you know, people are being confined, they're being frustrated, and they haven't learned to activate the feminine within themselves, because the feminine doesn't just exist in women. The feminine is a universal principle that exists in all of us. And
all of us,
what we also have is that we as women have become overly masculinized because we are trying to manage in this patriarchal system. And as a result, we see we are living out this very masculine trinity, which does not have a single woman, because our women are lacking the feminine spirit and our men are empowering themselves with a de-feminized masculinity. And that's why we see all the problems we have today.
No, exactly. When I Koko, and I would also, blame the system, because you see, if the system, it doesn't matter how much work you and I, do, but if the system that we operate under, rejects the African philosophy, it then becomes a problem. That is why I always say that African people in general, wherever we are on the continent, we suffer the same ill. We are under a system which is a fruit of theft. When they formed these republics on the continent, that is a thuggery. They stole our land to form these republics. So these republics must fall. But we can't be, careless about that. We have to leave them to live their time. But whilst we build a parallel system that will be grounded on the principles of Ma'at, that is the only way that brought harmony to our ancestors, so that, because we can never correct, this rotten system we live under. We need to come up with a clean and a fresh system that is based on everything that is African, Gogo.
Absolutely, Mkhulu. And when we spoke before of Set, what we see around us is Set in action, set in motion, Set creative. He created the system that we're in today, because what Set was out of control. Set did not live Ma'at, so did not know the principles, so started having to enforce things because he did not have Ma'at within his being, and therefore this false enforcing, in terms of borders, in terms of even our legal system or our correctional services system. All of that is because Ma'at has been, as you've said, Mkhulu, has been unfortunately put by the wayside, in order to make way for the thuggery that you have so aptly described. But I take solace in that story from Kemet, which says that once Haru gets his eye, he's able to overthrow, and he's able to restore. And who's in the background helping him restore Ma'at? It is Aset.
Aset.
It is the
magic of Aset.
The magic of Aset, absolutely. And the Queen Mother, that we see.
Yes.
So, absolutely. Absolutely.
The Queen Mother, I love what you've just said. That is why we need, to invoke that energy, that spirit of the Queen Mother, to restore our eye, the spiritual eye, which has been affected by Set. That is why we can no longer see our way back home, because we no longer have that spiritual eye, Coco. I love that.
Absolutely, Mkhulu. And so we have to all cultivate that Haru inside us, the sun inside us, animated by Sirius, as you said. Sirius animates the sun, in the same way. We need to be animated by the feminine, by the one who feeds, the one. I mean, when a child is born, when a child emerges from the womb and comes now into grandfather Geb, they're very fragile. They're very fragile because they have not accustomed to all the bacteria and all the influences that the earth has. So they're very susceptible to disease and death. Where is it that they get their nurturing from? They get it from the breast, and that is where they start to build their immune system. So the baby is born with an innate immunity, but once it starts suckling on the breast of the mother, it starts developing an immunity that will allow it to be able to manage in this world, which can sometimes be quite hostile. And therefore, so our future is in the womb, And once we emerge from the womb, our future is at the breast, of the mother. And this is why, mabele is, is something, why we know that something like mabele is, it nurtures, because it speaks to, how we're nurtured back to health, but not just physical health, spiritual health, as you've said, the spiritual health that will allow us to develop our spiritual eye, emotional health, that will allow us, and mental health, that will give us the intelligence to create proper systems that are in harmony with Ma'at, that are in harmony with Ubuntu. Be our way forward.
Thokoza Koko, because that would also assist us, Koko, in resolving these clashes that seem to manifest all the time between men and women. We are at war with each other. Why? Because of ignorance. I think both men and women should have a different discussion. Like about mama, the builders of homes, because you can buy a house, but without, umama lapo, that house will just remain a house, not a home. So, mama should realize their power and the importance. And, mama, Africans knew this. That is why we would call, mama, amakosikazi, meaning they are greater than kings. There's no need for us to be fighting for a spot, because mama are above already. So you don't want to come back and lower yourself and demand a 50-50, because you are above a man. That is why Okoko called you uyinkosikazi, uyindlovukazi. So I think we need to revert back to those Ma'ate principles, even in our families, Koko. That's why our families are destroyed like this, because you can never build a strong nation with weaker families.
Absolutely, Mkhulu. And I think what you speak to, speaks to, we have a lot of sisters who take up feminism because they are angry at the system, this patriarchal system that has completely decimated and has completely eradicated the feminine, But unfortunately, many of our sisters who take on feminism take it on with, for lack of a better word, with balls. They take on the unhealthy masculine in order to, to propagate, the feminine. So it's not about 50-50. It's actually about 100. When you multiply 1 by 1, you get 1.
Yes,
if you multiply 50 by 50, 5 by 5, it does not give you 1.
25, yes. Yes.
So we need to be 100% feminine. Our brothers and our fathers and our grandfathers have to be 100% in their masculine, and then we can become one. Which means that as women, we're not discarding our femininity in order to try and fit into this masculinized world. We're instead growing, nurturing. We're instead using the waters. And then using the sun as well. Bringing the sun and the waters together, the fire and the water together. And when we bring fire and water together, this is Ma'at. Ma'at is hot and moist. As a principle, it's got that attribute of hotness and moistness because it brings fire and water together in perfect harmony. Because it's about harmony. It is about bringing them together to play together. Yes.
No, go ahead, Coco.
I was just saying, one of the cultures that has really managed to explain this principle of this harmony between the masculine and the feminine is the Taoists from China. But we all know that came from Africa, with the yin and yang, where you see the yin and yang in that symbol. And everybody has ascribed that it is a Chinese philosophy, this yin and yang. But let's just come down to the Ngunis and look at our shields. The shield, you've got a shield behind you there. And you see the dark and the light. They always have the dark and the light. Yes. And what this tells us is that when we bring the dark and the light together, the masculine and the feminine together, we are protected by the shield. You know? So our Nguni cosmology is giving us a lot more information than the Chinese Taoist cosmology around, you know, the merging, the harmony of the masculine and the feminine. And then that's when we'll be protected. Our families will be protected. You know, our communities will be protected. Our nation and our society will be protected.
Oh, just you know, if you can also explain this, you know, theory they credit the Pythagoras with the right angle, you know, triangle. You know, the importance of the stability of the number 4 of, you know, Aset, which represents the mother principle.
Well, firstly, Pythagoras, it's sad that even we are talking about it and saying it's Pythagoras' theorem when Pythagoras studied in Kemet, and the pyramids which used the so-called Pythagoras theorem were there long before Pythagoras.
Long before.
Before, because they understood that principle, that a triangle is the most stable structure. The most stable shape is the triangle. And this is why those pyramids were built in the way they were. Then they have a base of 4, as you've said, you know. You know, therefore there are 4 triangles. So that stability is multiplied, you know. And this is why these pyramids have stayed for eternity, you know. I mean, thousands of years, those pyramids are still standing. The only thing that is waning from them is the top coat or the top cover due to weathering, but they are stable. And when you go inside those pyramids, it's amazing being inside, for instance, the Great Pyramid in Kemet, you know, and you just get a feel for that stability around, you know, this triangular form, which the Greeks came, and Pythagoras didn't even study the full curriculum. He only studied part of it. He only studied part of the curriculum. That's why he was not able to take that Pythagorean system and take it into spiritual values, because he only did 101, you know, of Kemetic, you know, mathematics, and then went back to Greece, had his theorem, you know, which is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, and you know what, that becomes the Pythagoras theorem, which we all revere, and yet it all comes right back from this continent, from Mother Africa, and the evidence is there. The evidence is there. We don't need to go anywhere else but to see the evidence there.
Plagiarism, please, you know, Coco, explain, you know, within that Imhotep, I'll call it the Imhotep, you know, theory, where you've explained about the 4, explain about the number 3 and number 5.
So from, if we go into the Kemetic tree of life, so we've got our different spheres on the tree of life, and there's so much you can explain everything from astronomy to anything, you know, using the tree of life. That's why I love it so much. But so there's 2 ways that we can look at 3 and 5 from the Kemetic tree of life. Firstly, at sphere 3 on the tree of life, we've got Sekret, and Sekret is the principle of power. You know, she's the omnipotent one. She's the one who gives the words of power, our mantras, our hakao, that creates. So she's the one who creates.
And sorry, Coco, even Ubunyanga.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely, Mkhulu. And so she's sitting at sphere 3. The one who's sitting at sphere 5 is Herikuti, who's the warrior that protects Ma'at. Know, with everything. It's only job protects Ma'at. That's it. You know, that's what the warrior is for. But the creative property comes from Sekret, which is androgynous, but once again, they tend to use the more feminine aspect in terms of who. But now we can go even deeper into the tree of life. Each of those principles has a sacred number. Has a sacred number. So now the sacred number 3 is held by Sebek. I know you're speaking about Anpu. You know.
Anpu.
Who sits at sphere 8, and his sacred number is 3. You know, and everything that's done in 3s helps you to open the way. So that's why transformation, Mkhulu. And that's
Yes.
why in academia, you know, when you do research, they always tell you to triangulate, you know, that you must
Yes.
have at least 3 sources, you know, that will help you to
Sure.
triangulate, you know, and once you
Yes.
triangulate, you know, and that's when you find validity, then you're able to open the way, because that's what Sebek does. He opens the way, you know, or if he's opening the way in the underworld, he's Anpu, who's then Anbama, who helps you open the way to go into the other,
Yes.
you know.
The guardian of spirits. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
the number 5, the sacred number 5 is held by Heteru, you know,
Yes.
by the feminine, the one who governs the waters, the rain
Yes.
and the waters, the young, who governs spirit, sensuality and sexuality, but who governs innovation. Unfortunately, a Western paradigm, when they take an archetype, so Heteru exists in all cultures. She's Aphrodite,
Sure.
you know, amongst the
Yes.
Greeks, she's Venus amongst the Romans, you know, she's Green Tara amongst the Chinese. She exists everywhere. And they tend to only have her in her attribute as being either a symbol of fertility or symbol of sexuality or joy or creativity. Here in Africa, that same principle is the principle of innovation and invention. She's the scientist, you know, because she is the one who is the vision, because she's the one, Haru is the one who is the eye, he has the eye. But where does he get the ability for that eye to be animated? We've said Haru is, the sun is animated by Sirius, but while he is in Heteru's womb, while he's being gestated, he is getting the principle of vision, you know, and this principle Heteru, who governs the number 5, you know, is the one who governs invention. So when we talk about the building of the pyramids, when we talk about bridges, when we talk about airplanes, when we talk about hard science, that's when we talk about electricity. If you go to Kemet, that was all done in Heteru's temple in Dendera, not in the masculine temples. Hard science was done in Heteru's, you know, Heteru's temple.
That's where the calendar is inscribed.
That's where it is, on the rooftop. The zodiac is on the rooftop. Is there. So whether it's astronomy, whether it is mathematics, whether it is hard science, but how did they animate their ability to have hard science? It is through the arts. It is through song. That's why we've got sangoma. That's why, you know, it is through the drum, through singing, through dancing. All of that is what helps to animate, you know, the ability to see in order to be able to invent and innovate. And that is the principle that's held within the sacred number 5 of Heteru.
Yes. And the Heteru, you know, seasons, you know, in as far as the horoscope. Remember, when they talk about horoscope, they are referring to the Heru's vision. That is what, you know, horoscope means. It's Heru's vision. So Heteru's season, it's in October. And, you know, according to Kemetic philosophy, that is the seasons also for people to get married.
Absolutely. She's the principle of congregation. She's the principle of, she governs the sacral chakra. If we look at the chakra system, and once again, people will think this is an Indian thing. It's not. Ra is not in India. Ra, you know. So when we look at the chakra system, she's the one who governs the sacral chakra, which is the chakra that is important for reproduction, but also the chakra that's important for bringing people together in spiritual union. This is, as you said, you know, what Heteru does. You know, she congregates. You know, she brings together love. You know, she brings together, you know, sweetness as well, in all of that, in order for prosperity to go. And and that is also just after the time of the harvest. You know, the time of, it's just into, you know, spring. You know, all of that, which are you know, principles, you know, of Heteru. Yeah.
Yes, Coco. Another thing, you know, is this thing that for you know, ancient Africans, you know, were practicing a Kemetic philosophy as well, because Kemet, it's not just Egypt, it's the whole continent. This is what people need to understand. You know, Kemet didn't start in Egypt. It was refined in Egypt. Most of the technology, but all started here. So the whole continent should actually be renamed Kemet. So what, you know, I learn a lot is that you could never, as a king, you could never ascend to the throne without marrying a princess.
Absolutely. Once again, our matriarchal systems, which the Jews have kept, that ability to inherit through the matriarch, still. But somehow we seem to have lost it somehow here in our African paradigm in many ways, which is the only way you can truly live your royalty is if royalty is imbued through you, through the feminine. Because she is the one who, as we've said, is the one who houses it, who houses it within her womb, within the universal womb, and then who nourishes it through her breast, and so therefore it is highly important, if we go back into time and into our African, history, to realize that royalty can only be, as you said, inherited through the princess.
Oh, no, certainly, the examples are right here next door. In Swaziland, the most important figure, Indlovukazi, meaning, the mother of the king. So, it's in keeping with that, order of Ma'at.
Absolutely. And bringing in the elephant aspect of it there, because they are matriarchal, society, the elephants, so that brings that in very well.
Yes, Coco. Then as we continue, Coco, because we are trying to heal the nation, and you can only heal the nation by revealing the truth, and the truth is that men wouldn't be without a woman. This is what we need to instill and drill in the minds and the hearts of people, for us to honor and respect our women, because, and take people back to the ways of Uma'at, the unadulterated, Ubuntu principle. Because everybody now is calling Ubuntu, and yet they are drawing so much from Set. Everything that they say and do reflects the actions of Set.
It's so true, Mkhulu. And, one of the ways that Set has managed to infiltrate, even when we speak Ubuntu, we speak a very anemic Ubuntu. When we go out there and we say we Africans are speaking Ubuntu, it's very anemic. We say I am because you are, Umuntu Gumuntu Gabantu, which is fine, but that's only one aspect of Ubuntu. What actually is Ubuntu, which is the principle of Ma'at? And so for that we need to first look at Untu. What is Untu? That's all animated force, that pervades everything, which comes from Nu. It comes from Nu. That's where Untu comes from. And then Untu has different manifestations. Untu, we have Muntu or Bantu, which is we humans who are animated, who are reasoned beings. But that's not where it ends. Untu comes in other forms. And by the way, Muntu or Bantu also includes trees, because trees are the ones who carry the ancestors. Then we have Kintu, which are things that are not animate, which are acted upon by Muntu. So all other aspects of creation, which are not humans. But then we also have Hantus, time and space. Now this is where we come into the realms of quantum physics, which are right there in our cosmology, that time and space are one. They're collapsed into one principle, Hantu. So when we talk about going to Ham, Pahlele, or wherever, that's that principle of time and space. And then Kuntu, which is a principle, So if we're truly to start living Ubuntu, we have to realize that when we're saying I am because you are, we're not just saying I am because you are Mkhulu as humans, but we also have to say I am because the tree is, I am because I am because, Sirius is, I am because the earth is, I am because the minerals are, and then we'll stop raping the earth through unwanted mining, because I am the earth. We'll stop, destroying the rivers, and we'll start bringing, society back together.
Yes, yes. No, that is very important when a Koko. Another thing which is what Ubabu Credo always said, Vusa Mazul, Vusa Mazul, Vusa Mazul. The great teacher. Ubabu Credo always said, Guti, nothing is dead on earth. Everything is alive. Even the rivers, the mountains, there's energy, there's a, vibration there, there's a resonance there, which is created. Everything is alive, even the spirits that we are not able to see through our eyes. It's alive. It's like when we are sitting right here, there are millions of other spirits or beings that are not visible that are there. So any harm that we bring to Mother Nature affects us indirectly because we are bringing a disharmony. Where Okokobeju, they were relentless in creating harmony and resonance between what is above and what is below, Koko.
Absolutely, Mkhulu. And it's interesting, you use the word Mother Nature. And, let's break down the word nature. Where does nature comes from? The word nature comes from,
yes.
Comes from Nature, Nature, which is all that is, it is the all-pervasive force.
Yes.
So it's interesting, we never talk about Father Nature. So back to your question about whether the principle that births creation, is it masculine or feminine? We're talking about Mother Nature, mother aspect of Nature.
Yes.
So now when we have decimated our femininity, we're decimating Nature. We're decimating the supreme being. We're decimating Nkulunkulu. We're decimating, all of it, by our very actions here on earth.
We're just destroying, each other. Coco, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Coco. I think, please, have patience with us. We are still going to call you because some of these things I've been saying, but, it will be nice for, people to hear another side of many minutes? 3 minutes. 3. Oh. I'm sorry, Coco. I thought we ran out of time. But I was making an appeal, Coco. The work that is ahead of us of, rebuilding Africa, because we are looking at the mother continent. We have to rebuild Africa and bring back, its children again to reconnect with the energy of the continent so that, our children and grandchildren are able to rule according to the dictates of the mother principle, Ma'at. Please, Coco, I appeal to you, be patient with us when we keep calling you back so that you come and further, emphasize what I've been saying to people all this time.
It will be my pleasure, Mkhulu. It will be my pleasure and honor.
Thokoza, we thank you so much, Coco. All we are trying to do is to create harmony. There shouldn't be a conflict between the male and the female. This, is, reflected by the workings of the moon and, the sun. You will never hear the moon complaining that you are always shining during the day. I want to shine during the day. They work like this to create magic. This is what the African family needs to do, to harmonize, the relationship so that we are able to bring stronger homes and which then will result into a stronger nation. Thank you so much, Coco. Thokoza.